Well, let's see here. I might not be Morgan Freeman, but this is... Classic Gamer Reviews.
You may laugh at Nintendo now for their current games being lackluster in the graphics department, and for the most part, the good department. But one thing has always been true: when it's not up to a third-party developer and Nintendo themselves make a game, nothing can beat it. That being said, you couldn't beat any game if it wasn't for Nintendo's Italian mascot. Believe it or not, video games were actually thought to be a passing fad after the barrage of shitty games coming out in the early 80s. And it's generally agreed that E.T. was where the line was fucking drawn, and drastically dropping sales made it seem that all hope was lost. But then a game called Mario came out. If Pong was Jesus in the video game industry, then Mario was the second coming of Christ. He single-handedly saved the video game industry, and he did it without kill streaks and 360 no-scopes. That being said, the Nintendo was home to a good amount of games that had Mario in it, most notably 3 of them. The first one, which is a platformer, then the Super Mario 2, which is a clone of a Japanese game called Yumi Kojo Doki Doki Panic, and then the Super Mario 3. Each game varied from each other in one way or another, keeping in things that worked and taking out things that didn't. Considered by a good amount of people to be the best Mario game ever made, Super Mario 3 for the Nintendo was a game I decided I recently had to beat, so I decided to give it a try. Having only played the remastered version for the Super Nintendo as a kid and never beaten it, I thought, what better time than now? Right from the start, you're shown a colorful map that acts as your guide from level to level, and holy fuck, for a Nintendo game, there's a lot of levels. There's well over 9 times 6 levels. Bet you thought I was going to say 9,000. Thankfully, they're all well built and fun to play. In order to help you on your journey, Super Mario 3 introduces several new power-ups aside from the Star and Fire power. I don't consider the Mushroom a power-up because winners don't use drugs. Come on, man, one bite won't kill ya. Nuh-uh. Okay. Perhaps the most well-known one is the Tanuki suit, which allows you to fly and turn into a statue and stuff. But besides that, you have frogs, leaves, and a few other things. You can store these items, which is fantastic because there's a lot of opportunities to get items in this game, and the later levels can be a real bitch, so you're gonna need them. With that in mind, this is a difficult Mario game, perhaps the hardest one I've ever played. The progression of difficulty is most prominent in this game from the other entries in the series. Whereas the last world is usually where they start ramping up the difficulty in other Mario games, Mario 3 starts raping you at the last few worlds. It also doesn't help that, for the most part, you gotta beat this game in one sitting, and it will take longer than most could have patience for. But it's better to complain about a game being too long than too short. You can get flutes which warp you to other worlds, but unless you know where they are, you're gonna have to beat this game in one sitting. And the flutes are so hidden, and they're in the most cryptic places that basically in the 80s, if you didn't have Nintendo Power, then you were fucked. That's also prevalent in some of the levels where finding out what to do or where to go is kinda difficult. But back to the point. If you manage to find a flute, then you can easily get to where you left off if you shut the game off. As Toad puts it, one toot on this flute would take you to a faraway land. Just be careful which flute you toot on, or that faraway place could be 20 years in jail for underage mushroom rape. I didn't know he was underage, I swear! The controls, like in any Mario game, are flawless. When you make a mistake, it's very, very, very rare that it's not your fault. Sometimes the hit detection can be a bit weird though. I clearly landed on this Koopa's head and got this mushroom, but regardless, I died. But in the time that I played it, that was the only instance I had of bad hit detection. But for the most part, finding problems with this game is difficult. In a comparable way, this game is like Selena Gomez. For one, both show amazing results if you blow them, and two, they are nearly perfect in every way. The amount of positive things to say about this game is overwhelming. Each world does something to switch up the environment a bit, my favorite being the fourth world, where everything is giant. Now, if only my peen. I also found it neat that there was such an abundance of levels that you can actually skip some. The limited capabilities and memory of a NES game usually made it so that every level was used, but this showed that Nintendo knew their console so much that they actually had levels to spare. Each fortress at the end of the world takes place on a ship, and if you die once, the ship flees to another part of the map, sometimes causing you to actually have to beat a level you skipped, which I found really neat. But I found the deck of each fortress strangely built, but more so because it's made of wood and since they put flamethrowers on board. I don't think that would go over so well. The game's end boss, which is Bowser, is incredibly easy, but I still found it very fun. Mainly because this style of Mario boss fight has never really been repeated ever since. To top all this off, you can play with a friend, switching off characters upon level completion or dying, and you can play a versus remake of the original Mario Bros. Arcade game. I have no friends though, so I can only dream of playing this mode. I did play the one in the All-Stars game for the Super Nintendo though, and it was a blast to play. However, while I do recommend playing Super Mario Bros. 3, it's more suggested that you try the updated version, which you can get for the Super Nintendo, Game Boy Advance, Wii Virtual Console, or in the Mario 25th Anniversary Collection. I say this because those have save capabilities, and to get the most out of this game, you're going to want to play every level. But doing that in one sitting is just too much. The updated versions keep intact all that made the original a blast to play, so there's no need to worry. I want to give a shout out to Andrew Anderson 96 for letting us borrow this game. You fucking rock. Overall, a fun game with loads of content and just a plain good old time. Come on, man, one bite won't kill ya.